The lunar base was a stark reminder of humanity's fall from grace, a sprawling complex hidden beneath a battered surface, its once shining walls now dulled by dust and neglect. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of machinery and the weight of despair. Flickering lights cast long shadows over the gathered group. Engineers, scientists, and soldiers, all bearing the marks of loss and survival. Captain Lex Turner stood at the center, her presence commanding attention even in the face of their bleak reality. "Listen up," she called, her voice steady despite the tension that permeated the room. "We're not just surviving. We're building a future. We owe it to everyone we've lost to fight back, to reclaim what's ours." Murmurs of doubt rippled through the crowd. A young engineer, his hands trembling as he clutched a tablet, raised his voice. "But Captain, what can we do? The aliens have wiped out entire colonies. We're just a handful of survivors." Lex stepped forward, locking eyes with him. "We have something they don't. A legacy. Humanity once ruled the stars, and we still have the knowledge to reclaim that power. We just need to find the war machines." As she spoke, an alarm suddenly blared, cutting through her words like a knife. Red lights pulsed overhead, and a crackling voice echoed through the base's intercom. "Intruders detected. Prepare for immediate lockdown." Chaos erupted. Lex's heart raced as she quickly assessed the situation. "Get to your stations. We need to defend our home." She moved with purpose, rallying her team as they scrambled for weapons and armor. Amidst the commotion, Lex's thoughts raced. The scavengers could smell their desperation. They would come to pillage whatever scraps they could find. Just as she reached for her pulse rifle, a deafening crash reverberated through the corridor. The metal doors buckled under the force of a breaching charge, and a group of armed raiders surged into the base, their intentions clear. "Hold the line," Lex shouted, her voice cutting through the chaos. She led a charge toward the intruders, the adrenaline fueling her every move. The raiders, clad in makeshift armor, were a motley crew, their faces twisted with greed and malice. Lex dove behind a console, firing her weapon with precision, the blue beams illuminating the darkened room. One of her soldiers, a grizzled veteran named Darian, joined her, his expression fierce. "We can't let them through, Lex. They'll take everything." As they fought, Lex's thoughts turned to the war machines. If they could only find the ancient technology buried beneath the surface, they could turn the tide. She signaled to Darian, "Cover me. I'm going to the lower levels. There's a chance we can access the old hangar." Darian nodded, laying down suppressing fire as Lex sprinted down a narrow corridor, her heart pounding in her chest. She ducked and weaved, narrowly avoiding enemy shots. The base shuddered under the impact of explosions, the walls echoing the desperate struggle above. Reaching a rusted door, Lex punched in the access code, praying it still worked. The door hissed open, revealing a dimly lit space filled with forgotten machinery and dust-covered blueprints. The air felt charged with possibility. In the far corner, she spotted a massive outline, an ancient war machine, its frame barely visible under a shroud of debris. A jolt of excitement surged through her. "This is it," she whispered, moving closer, her fingers tracing the cold metal surface. Just then, a scream echoed from the corridor. Lex's heart dropped. "Darian," she called, rushing back toward the chaos. But she knew, no matter the cost, she had to awaken the legacy of humanity's war machine if they were to survive. The fight for their future had just begun. Lex sprinted back toward the sounds of chaos, her heart pounding. As she rounded the corner, she found Darian pinned down behind a shattered console, his weapon blazing against the encroaching raiders. The sight of him fighting valiantly filled her with renewed determination. "Darian, we have to fall back." Lex shouted over the cacophony of gunfire. "I found the war machine." "Are you serious?" he replied incredulously, ducking as a volley of shots whizzed overhead. "This is not the time for jokes, Lex. Not a joke. Follow me." She gestured toward the lower levels, knowing the urgency of their situation. We can't let them have this base. It's our only chance. With a curt nod, Darien covered her as they made their way through the hallways, dodging enemy fire. The sounds of the battle faded slightly as they descended deeper into the bowels of the base. Lex's mind raced with images of the war machine, its dormant power waiting to be unleashed. Reaching the darkened hangar, Lex switched on the emergency lights. They flickered to life, revealing the massive silhouette of the war machine, buried under debris but still imposing. It was a relic of humanity's past, designed for combat and resilience. Lex felt a surge of hope. There it is, she breathed, awe washing over her. Let's get to work, Darien said, already moving toward the controls. Lex hurried to a nearby console, her fingers dancing over the interface, trying to access the ancient systems. The screen blinked and whirred, the familiar hum of technology stirring to life. Come on, she urged, biting her lip as the loading bar crawled across the screen. We need to revive this thing before the raiders find us. As she worked, the hangar door rattled, and Lex knew their time was limited. With a final burst of energy, the screen flashed. ***************************************************************** Well, so I'm back. OPE Rator. A deep voice reverberated through the hangar, resonating with power and authority. Aegis, activate. Lex commanded, her voice firm. The war machine began to whir, its enormous form trembling as it powered up. Lights flickered across its surface, illuminating the intricate designs of a machine built for war. Initial diagnostics complete. Engaging systems. Aegis responded, its voice rich and mechanical. The ground shook slightly as the machine's servos whined to life, and Lex felt a rush of excitement. Lex. Darien's voice broke through her reverie. We need to move. They're almost here. The doors shook violently as the raiders pounded against them, determined to breach the hangar. Aegis, can you assist? Lex asked, urgency evident in her tone. Affirmative. Engaging defense protocols, Aegis replied. Its massive hands moved fluidly, as if testing its own strength. Within moments, a series of automated defenses activated around the hangar, including laser turrets that emerged from hidden compartments. Get ready. Lex shouted, positioning herself beside Darien as they watched the machine spring into action. Aegis turned its massive torso, raising its arm to target the approaching raiders. The turrets unleashed a barrage of energy blasts, striking true. Lex felt a surge of adrenaline as the hangar lit up with bursts of light. The raiders were thrown back, disoriented by the sudden ferocity of their opponent. Now's our chance, Lex yelled, signaling Darien to follow her. Let's show them what humanity can do, he responded, charging forward with renewed vigor. As they moved outside, Lex couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. Aegis was more than just a weapon. It was a symbol of hope, a testament to humanity's ingenuity and resilience. If they could harness its power, perhaps they could rally the scattered remnants of humanity and turn the tide against the alien forces threatening their very existence. With Aegis at their side, they were no longer outlaws in hiding. They were warriors ready to reclaim their legacy. And as they fought, the galaxy would soon learn that humanity had not forgotten how to rise again. The sounds of battle echoed through the corridors as Lex and Darien moved alongside Aegis, which now stood tall and imposing, its weapons scanning for further threats. The automated turrets had pushed the raiders back for now, but Lex knew the respite would be brief. They needed to capitalize on this momentum. Darien, rally the others, Lex commanded, her eyes focused ahead. We need to fortify our defenses and prepare for the next wave. Aegis can't do this alone. On it, Darien replied, sprinting down the corridor to gather their scattered forces. Lex turned her attention back to Aegis, her heart pounding with excitement and fear. The machine's AI had been dormant for so long. Now it was alive, and with it came a wealth of knowledge and capabilities that could shift the balance of power in their favor. Aegis, can you run a scan for nearby hostiles? Lex asked, her mind racing with possibilities. Scanning now, Aegis responded. A moment later, the mech's optics lit up, displaying a tactical overlay that outlined the base and highlighted areas of movement. Multiple hostiles approaching from the northwest. Estimated time of arrival: 3 minutes. Lex's jaw tightened. We need to set traps. If we can funnel them into a narrow passage, we can take them out efficiently. Let's use the old supply crates and debris. Affirmative, Aegis replied. Initiating defense protocol. Funnel and fire. With Aegis's guidance, Lex directed the remaining survivors, engineers, scientists, and soldiers, into action. They quickly moved supply crates to block broader areas, creating a makeshift kill zone. As the tension mounted, Lex felt the weight of leadership pressing down on her. She glanced around at her team, their faces filled with determination despite the chaos. Just then, Jax, the charismatic leader of the pirates, burst into the hangar, his crew trailing behind him. "What's going on?" he shouted, breathless. "We heard the commotion and came as fast as we could." Lex revived a war machine, Darian explained, his voice heavy with urgency. "We need your crew's help to defend this position. Can you assist us?" Jax's eyes widened, a mixture of admiration and calculation in his gaze. "Aegis? Ha! Impressive. But if we're going to do this, we need to work together." "Agreed," Lex said, appreciating the pirate's straightforwardness. "You know how to handle yourself in a fight. I'll divide the forces. Your crew can cover the flanks while we hold the main entry point." "Smart thinking," Jax replied, nodding to his crew. They spread out, taking positions with practiced efficiency. With everyone in place, Lex took a deep breath, scanning the defenses. The sound of footsteps grew louder, reverberating in her chest. "Remember, we're not just fighting for survival. We're reclaiming our future." As the raiders approached, the tension in the air was palpable. Lex felt her pulse quicken. Aegis stood ready, its arm raised, targeting the first wave of intruders. "Now," Lex shouted. The team opened fire, a cacophony of energy beams illuminating the darkened hangar. The raiders stumbled into the kill zone, caught in the crossfire as the traps worked effectively, funneling them into a narrow corridor. But the raiders were relentless. Lex noticed one particularly large figure rallying the others, shouting commands and organizing a counterattack. "Darian, focus fire on that one," she yelled, pointing. The battle intensified as the raiders charged forward, but Lex felt the tide shifting. Aegis unleashed a devastating blast, scattering the attackers like leaves in a storm. The tide of the battle turned, but the sheer ferocity of the assault was a stark reminder of the dangers still lurking beyond their walls. "Keep pushing," Lex urged her team, adrenaline surging through her. The fight was far from over, but with Aegis and the pirates at their side, they were beginning to forge a new path. Humanity's resolve was awakening, and the outlaws of the universe were ready to claim their place among the stars once more. The echoes of battle faded as the last of the raiders were driven off, leaving the hangar in a tense silence. Lex took a deep breath, surveying the scene. Aegis stood sentinel, its imposing form a symbol of their hard-won victory. Lex felt a flicker of hope, but she knew this was just the beginning. They had to prepare for what was coming. "All right, everyone, gather around," Lex called, raising her voice to cut through the lingering adrenaline. Her team, weary yet triumphant, shuffled closer. "We've survived today, but we need to get better. Aegis is just one part of our arsenal. We need a whole squad of operators trained and ready to use these war machines effectively." Jack stepped forward, a glint of interest in his eyes. "You want to train a new generation of fighters? I've seen my crew handle all kinds of tech. We can help." "Thanks, Jax," Lex replied, her heart swelling with gratitude. "But we'll need to focus on teamwork. These machines won't operate well if we don't understand how to work together. As Lex laid out her plan, a fire ignited in the eyes of her team. They would set up training exercises, using Aegis as a centerpiece. With Jax's crew's help, they could blend military discipline with the pirates' unconventional tactics. Lex felt an electric sense of possibility in the air. The following days were a whirlwind of activity. They divided into teams. Some focused on piloting Aegis, while others learned maintenance and weapon systems. Lex led the piloting group, pushing her recruits to adapt quickly, teaching them how to maneuver the massive machine with precision. Each session was intense, filled with errors and corrections, but the improvements were palpable. In one session, a young recruit named Maya struggled to get Aegis to respond to her commands. Frustration flared in her eyes as the machine jerked awkwardly, nearly tipping over during a maneuver. "Breathe, Maya," Lex shouted, her voice steady. "Feel the machine, don't fight it. Aegis is an extension of you." Maya nodded, taking a deep breath. As she relaxed, Aegis's movements smoothed out. Lex watched, pride swelling within her. The recruits were beginning to bond with Aegis, finding a rhythm between human and machine. Meanwhile, Jax trained his crew in guerrilla tactics, employing hit-and-run strategies that complemented Lex's structured military approach. The combination proved effective. The pirates learned discipline, and the soldiers adapted to unconventional methods. Tensions began to ease as mutual respect grew. However, not everyone was on board. Some of the original survivors questioned the alliance, voicing concerns about trusting the pirates. Lex called a meeting to address their fears. "Look, I understand your hesitations," she began, standing before a group of skeptical faces. "But we can't afford to let mistrust tear us apart. We're fighting for our survival, and that means embracing every skill and resource we have. Jax and his crew have skills we need." Darian stepped forward, his voice steady. "We've seen the pirates fight. They're resourceful. We may not like it, but they're on our side. We need each other." The room fell silent. Then a hesitant agreement rippled through the group. Lex felt a sense of unity beginning to form, albeit fragile. It was a crucial step forward. As the weeks passed, the training intensified. Simulated battles and mock skirmishes became routine, with Aegis at the heart of their exercises. Lex saw the transformation in her team. They were growing stronger, more cohesive, and filled with purpose. One evening, after a grueling session, Lex found herself sitting on the hangar floor next to Jax, watching the stars through a small viewport. The tension from earlier faded into camaraderie. "Do you think we're ready?" she asked, her voice soft. "Ready enough," Jax replied, a hint of a smile on his lips. "But it's not just about machines. It's about belief. If you can inspire them, they'll follow you anywhere." Lex turned to him, feeling a bond growing between them. "Then let's make sure they believe. For humanity's future." With renewed determination, Lex stood. The training sessions would continue, and so would their fight for survival. They were no longer just a band of outlaws. They were a force to be reckoned with, ready to rise against the tide of darkness that threatened to engulf them all. The galaxy wouldn't forget the rebirth of humanity's war machine. The air buzzed with anticipation as Lex stood before her assembled team in the hangar, her heart racing. They had trained for weeks, honing their skills, forging bonds, and preparing for the mission that lay ahead. Today, they would take the fight to the enemy, reclaiming a vital outpost known to house not only resources, but also vital intelligence on the alien forces that threatened humanity's survival. "Today isn't just about a raid," Lex began, her voice firm and steady. "It's about proving to ourselves that we can reclaim our future. We've trained hard, and now we have to show them what humanity is capable of. Aegis will be our spearhead, but every one of you is crucial to our success." Darian stepped forward, his eyes gleaming with resolve. "We've faced worse odds. Remember, we're fighting for our lives. Stick to the plan, and we'll come out on top." Lex nodded, grateful for his confidence. We move in 2 squads. Jax, you'll take your crew to the east flank and create a diversion. We'll hit them from the west with Aegis leading the charge." "Sounds like a plan," Jax replied, a mischievous grin spreading across his face. "Just keep an eye on your 6. You never know when a pirate might decide to get a little creative." The team laughed, tension easing as they began to prepare. Lex felt a surge of hope. This ragtag band of survivors had transformed into a cohesive unit, ready to reclaim what was lost. As they launched from the hangar, Lex's adrenaline surged. Aegis, piloted by Maya, was at the forefront, cutting through the darkness like a beacon. The stars glimmered above them, a reminder of the vastness of space and the stakes involved. Minutes later, they approached the outpost, a sprawling complex surrounded by jagged rocks and makeshift barriers. Lex's heart raced as she signaled for the team to halt. The outpost's defenses were heavier than expected. Turrets glimmered in the dim light, and guards patrolled the perimeter. "Jax, your move," Lex whispered into her comm. "Time to cause a ruckus." Jax's voice crackled with enthusiasm. As the pirate crew sprang into action, setting off explosive charges along the east flank, Lex felt the ground shake beneath her. "Now," she commanded, and Aegis moved forward, charging with a thundering roar. Laser blasts erupted from Aegis's arms, slicing through the defenses as Lex guided the mech with precision. The guards at the west flank were caught off guard, scrambling to respond to the chaos erupting on the other side. Lex seized the moment. "Push forward," she shouted, her heart pounding. "Darien, cover our advance." Darien's team fell into formation, providing suppressive fire as Aegis barreled through the main gate. The clash of battle surrounded them. Shouts and explosions, the sound of metal meeting metal. Lex felt exhilarated, each movement of Aegis reminding her of the power they had reclaimed. Inside the complex, they encountered fierce resistance. Aliens in dark armor charged at them, their weapons crackling with energy. Lex's team fought back with a newfound determination, combining their tactics with the unpredictability of Jax's crew. Amidst the chaos, Lex spotted a heavily armed alien commander rallying his troops. A fire ignited within her. "Aegis, target that commander," she ordered, and the mech responded with a swift, powerful strike. As the commander stumbled, Lex pressed the advantage. "Push them back," she yelled, her voice ringing with authority. They were gaining ground, but Lex knew better than to underestimate their opponents. Suddenly, a warning flashed on Aegis's display. *** enemy. Reinforcements DTCTA***. Lex's heart sank. "We need to hold this position," she shouted, her voice urgent. The tide was turning against them, and they couldn't afford to falter now. The team rallied, Aegis standing tall amidst the chaos. They had come too far to back down. "Remember why we're here," Lex urged. "For our families, for our future." With renewed energy, the team pressed forward, determination igniting within them. The battle was fierce, but they fought with everything they had, knowing they were on the brink of something greater. This was their moment, one that would resonate through the stars, announcing to the galaxy that humanity had not only survived, but was ready to rise again. The battle raged on, the air thick with the acrid smell of smoke and the distant hum of energy blasts. Lex stood at the helm of Aegis, directing her team with fierce determination. They had gained control of the outpost, but the victory felt bittersweet. As she glanced at the battlefield, a knot of unease tightened in her stomach. The team was slowly pushing the alien forces back, but something felt off. The pirates were too quiet, their movements slightly too calculated. She spotted Jax across the fray, barking orders to his crew, but there was an intensity in his gaze that made her heart race. "Darien," Lex shouted over the din. "Can you keep an eye on Jax's crew? I don't trust their motives." Darien nodded, a look of understanding passing between them. "Got it. Just be careful." As the last of the enemy forces fell back, Lex felt a wave of relief wash over her. They had secured the outpost. We did it. She cheered, adrenaline still coursing through her veins. The team erupted in cheers, their spirits high, but Lex's heart still ached with doubt. "Let's secure the perimeter and get the intel," she ordered, trying to shake off her unease. "Darian, gather the troops. Jax, I need you to lead a search for supplies." "Sure thing, Captain," Jax replied, but Lex couldn't shake the feeling that he was hiding something. As they began to explore the outpost, they discovered crates filled with technology, supplies, and maps that hinted at larger enemy movements. Lex's heart raced. This could turn the tide for humanity. But as she reviewed the data with her team, a familiar figure caught her eye. "Jax, come here," she called, motioning him over. He approached, a smirk on his face. "What's up, Lex?" he asked, leaning against a console, his posture relaxed. "I think we've struck gold here," she replied, gesturing to the maps. "These routes could help us anticipate their next moves." "Great. Let's see what else we can find." His enthusiasm seemed genuine, but there was something unsettling in his demeanor. As they continued to sift through the supplies, Lex felt an unsettling chill. She caught Darian whispering with one of Jax's crew members, a wiry pirate named Flint. Their furtive glances toward her, and the maps raised alarms in her mind. "Darian, what's going on?" Lex approached, trying to keep her voice steady. "Nothing. Just strategizing," Darian replied, but his tone lacked conviction. Jax stepped in, a grin plastered on his face. "We should celebrate our victory. I mean, look at all this loot." He gestured to the crates, his charm on full display. "Sure, but first we need to secure our position," Lex replied, her eyes narrowing. "Darian, keep an eye on things. I'll check in with the others." As she walked away, unease twisted in her stomach. A shadow loomed over her confidence, and she began to doubt Jax's intentions. Had he simply been using them to further his own goals? The thought gnawed at her. A commotion broke out near the main entrance. Lex rushed to investigate, her instincts on high alert. As she rounded the corner, she saw Jax's crew moving suspiciously, loading crates onto a transport ship. "What are you doing?" Lex shouted, her heart pounding. Jax turned, feigning innocence. "Just securing our spoils, Lex. You know how it is." "No, this isn't right. Those supplies are for everyone, not just your crew." Lex's voice rose, fueled by anger and betrayal. Darian stepped beside her, eyes blazing. "You're not taking that. We fought for this." Jax's expression hardened, and he raised a hand to his crew. "You really want to do this, Lex? We're all survivors here. You can't expect us to share everything." Suddenly, tension crackled in the air. Lex felt the weight of the moment. Betrayal stung deeper than any alien blast. "I trusted you," she exclaimed, pain evident in her voice. "Trust is a luxury we can't afford," Jax replied, his voice cold. "You should have known better." Before Lex could respond, Flint lunged at Darian, and chaos erupted. Lex's instincts kicked in as she fought alongside her team, trying to regain control of the situation. Betrayal and desperation intertwined, igniting a fire within her. "Get the intel. We can't let them take this," Lex shouted, rallying her team. In the heart of the chaos, she realized one truth. They were on their own now. They would have to fight not only for survival, but also to reclaim the trust that had been shattered. The battle was far from over, and the stakes had never been higher. The chaotic symphony of battle raged outside the command room, punctuated by the dull thud of bodies hitting the metal floor and the sharp crackle of energy weapons discharging. Lex stood firm, adrenaline coursing through her veins as she faced Jax, who now seemed to weigh his options carefully. "Let's get one thing straight, Jax," Lex said, her voice steady despite the turmoil. "This data isn't just some commodity to be traded. It's a roadmap for our survival. You know that as well as I do." Jax's gaze flickered to the console where the intel was still downloading. And you think I'm just going to hand it over? After everything that's happened. Darian stepped forward, his eyes fierce. You need to understand, Jax. If we don't work together, we're all dead. The aliens won't care about our petty rivalries. For a moment, the silence in the room was heavy, filled with the distant sounds of the ongoing skirmish. Jax's crew shifted uneasily, the tension palpable as they awaited their leader's response. Finally, Jax took a breath, the anger in his posture relaxing just a fraction. You're right, he admitted, albeit grudgingly. But trust doesn't come easy. We've been through too much to just forget it. Then let's start by showing each other that we can trust one another, Lex said, her determination unwavering. Let's share the intel, work on a strategy together. We have the skills to fight back. Jax hesitated, then nodded slowly, his expression shifting from confrontation to contemplation. All right, but this is a two-way street. If we do this, I expect full transparency. Lex offered a faint smile, relief flooding her. Deal. But first, we need to secure this room and finish the download. As they turned back to the console, an explosion rocked the command room, sending a shudder through the walls. The lights flickered ominously, plunging them into momentary darkness before the emergency lights kicked in, casting eerie shadows across the room. Reinforcements are on the way. A voice shouted from outside, and the urgency returned to Lex's heart. We have to move now. Cover the entrance, Darian commanded, taking position beside Lex as Jax's crew fanned out, weapons drawn. Lex's fingers danced across the console, the download nearing completion. We're almost done. She shouted over the noise, the adrenaline pushing her to work faster. Each second felt like an eternity, the sounds of battle drawing closer. Suddenly, the door burst open, and a group of Jax's men rushed in, weapons raised. What's happening? We need to regroup, one of them yelled, eyes wide with panic. Hold your fire. Jax barked, stepping forward to assert control. We're joining forces, but we need to secure the data first. Lex, how much longer? 10 seconds. Lex replied, her heart racing as she focused on the screen. The progress bar inched forward, each tick a reminder of how close they were to turning the tide. Move, Darian shouted as the doors splintered under a heavy barrage of gunfire. Jax's crew scrambled into position, creating a barricade. Get ready, Jax warned. On my count. 3. As the countdown echoed in Lex's mind, she held her breath, the final seconds stretching out like a thin thread. 2, 1. The screen flashed green, signaling that the download was complete. Lex quickly transferred the data to a portable device and pocketed it just as the door exploded inward, sending debris flying. Now, Jax shouted, and his crew opened fire, returning the assault. Lex's heart raced as she joined the fray, determination igniting her spirit. Together, they had a chance. United, they could become humanity's last hope against the encroaching darkness. The battle was far from over, but now, they were not just fighting for survival. They were fighting for a future worth reclaiming. The chaos surged as Lex and her newly allied crew battled side by side, their weapons firing in unison against the encroaching threat. The blast of energy weapons illuminated the darkened command room, the air thick with tension and smoke. Lex felt a fierce surge of determination. This was their moment to reclaim what was theirs. Darian, cover our right, she shouted, ducking behind a console as Jax's crew flanked the doorway, creating a fortified line. The distant sound of blaster fire mingled with the pounding of her heart. Got it, Darian responded, pivoting to aim at the advancing pirates. Lex caught a glimpse of Jax, barking orders with newfound authority, his crew rallying under his command. For the first time, they felt like a cohesive unit rather than a band of outlaws. With a quick glance at the portable data device tucked safely in her pocket, Lex felt the weight of their mission. The intel they'd just secured held the key to their survival and the potential to turn the tide against the aliens that threatened their very existence. Suddenly, the door burst open, and more of Jax's men surged into the room, eyes wide with adrenaline. "We're being overwhelmed. We need to fall back," one of them yelled, panic creeping into his voice. "No," Jax countered fiercely. "We hold this position. We've come too far to let fear dictate our actions now." Lex admired his resolve. "Jax is right. We can't give in. We have the upper hand." She moved into position, firing at the incoming threats with renewed vigor. "Everyone, push them back." As they fought, Lex couldn't help but feel the shifting dynamics among them. Once bitter rivals, they were now allies forged in the crucible of battle. Each blaster shot, each tactical maneuver brought them closer together. They were no longer just a ragtag crew. They were becoming a formidable force. With each enemy that fell, hope surged through the room. Lex's mind raced as she formulated their next steps. "Once we clear this room, we need to get to the ship. We have to prepare for the real fight ahead." "On my signal," Jax shouted, and they all tensed, waiting for the moment to strike. "Now," Lex cried, and they surged forward, pushing back the pirates with a coordinated assault. Lex felt exhilaration flooding her veins. They were moving as one, a well-oiled machine, each member covering the other's blind spots. The command room erupted into chaos, energy blasts filling the air as they clashed with the remaining forces. Lex felt a fierce sense of camaraderie with her new allies. This was what it meant to stand united. "Keep moving," Darien yelled, leading the charge toward the exit. "We can't let them regroup." As they fought their way out, the sound of explosions echoed behind them, signifying the destruction of the control room. Lex risked a glance back, her heart heavy. They had fought hard for this place, but there was no time to mourn. Emerging into the corridor, they sprinted toward the docking bay. The metallic walls reverberated with the sounds of battle as Jax's crew pushed alongside Lex's team, every step bringing them closer to their ship. Once inside the bay, Lex quickly moved to the controls. "We need to power up the engines and get ready for takeoff." Darien manned the weapons station, his focus unwavering as he monitored the scanners. "We've got incoming," he warned, and the ship rattled as blaster fire rained down. "Jax, can your crew hold them off?" Lex asked, urgency lacing her voice. "Absolutely," Jax replied, taking command. "Everyone, to your positions. We'll cover you while you prep the ship." As they worked, Lex felt the weight of their situation. They were no longer just a crew of outlaws. They were a coalition of survival. Trust was being forged in the fires of battle, and with it, hope ignited. "Engines are ready," Darien shouted, and Lex felt a surge of triumph. "Then let's get out of here," Lex commanded, slamming the throttle forward as the ship roared to life. With a final surge of energy, they blasted through the bay doors, the stars stretching out before them. Behind them, the chaos of battle receded, but Lex knew that the fight was far from over. The universe was still filled with dangers, and they would need every ounce of strength and unity to face what lay ahead. Together, they had forged a new path, not just for themselves but for humanity. As they soared into the unknown, Lex glanced at her crew, now family, and felt a powerful resolve. This was just the beginning. Together, they would reclaim their future,